Sangin Podcast would like to appreciate everyone who has listened and watched our episode. On behalf of the podcast, we would like to encourage every one of you to follow and subscribe to us using whichever medium you choose to listen to us. This increases our outreach and makes us bring bigger and better guests for amazing stories. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sanyin Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Miss Jackie Lumbasi, who is a journalist, media personality. Miss Jackie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Sanyin. Thank you for inviting me. I'm a great fan of your work. It is a pleasure to be featuring. I always wondered, when will my time come? So thank you for this opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here.
Nice. So for someone who may not know you, which I think there are few in our region, how would you introduce yourself?
Oh, well, I would introduce myself as a media personality. I got interested in mass communication very many years ago, went to school and studied. So I'm a graduate of mass communication, journalism and mass communication. I majored in broadcast media. So when I say media personality, I have been a news anchor on radio and TV. I have been a radio presenter. I have hosted a program on TV, which I still do until today. And I've also written in different newspapers during my time in Uganda. I contributed articles to different papers. I've done the same in Rwanda, where I'm currently based. Then what else should I leave out as part of my introduction? I am the firstborn in a family of 5. I come from a very closely knit family. My family is scattered. I have most of them in Kenya, where I come from. Then I have a brother and his family in Kampala. I have a sister elsewhere. And what else? I love making friends. I am very passionate about communication, public speaking. I am free-spirited, outgoing, and I love traveling. Does that qualify to be in the introduction, Sanyin?
Yeah, it does.
That's a bit about me.
Yeah. Okay. So you've been in the media for quite a long time, if I would say, because I remember listening to you when I was a little boy. Car radio.
How little? Were you in primary or secondary school?
I was in primary. This is like 2009.
Goodness.
Yeah, so
I'm humbled. Let me tell you the truth, yeah?
Yeah.
So during my time on radio, the many years I spent on radio and TV in Uganda, I got approached by many young people who were probably interested, who picked interest in mass communication, probably after listening to me, and they came to me for guidance and advice. And then I have those that just sent a message and wanted to visit the studio, probably when they were in primary school or secondary school, even campus. And now let me tell you, when they call me today and we are having a conversation the way I am with you, and they tell me, I used to listen to you when I was in school. I like asking, so was it primary school or secondary, just to know how old I am? I feel really old that somebody who listened to me is now interviewing me. My goodness. How we go, how as a media person, you go looking for an army veteran to talk about the war.
But I guess it goes to show your contribution to society transcends generations. I think you should be proud of.
I guess it does. I don't take it for granted. It's something I really thank God for. It's humbling.
So, okay, someone may ask, what was your inspiration in media for you to join the media industry?
Well, in the very beginning, it's because I used to watch the news and I really admired newscasters or news anchors. They always were proper sounding, proper looking. They came across as very intelligent. They were on top of current affairs. They knew their thing, very presentable. And then they had millions of us watching them. And so I grew up watching them and admiring them, and I knew I wanted to be on that stage. I knew I wanted to be the person that people would be watching someday. Along the way, when I was in my late secondary school years, I would have people come and tell me, you have a good voice. Then I remembered, oh my God, I'm the one who watches news anchors. I love them so much. Maybe if people are telling me I have the voice for it. So probably indeed that love could one day become something solid. So I got really inspired by the many people that were doing a great job in the media, and just the love for communicating. I loved being the one that reads a message in front of people in school or in class. I just loved being listened to. I really, really enjoyed addressing people.
Yeah. So there's this question I usually ask myself. First, for someone to join the media, is it better if you're extroverted compared to being introverted, or it doesn't matter?
I don't think it matters. It doesn't matter because the media has room for all of us. And also, it depends on the character you choose to be in the media, or the kind of program that you will want to be associated with. So, introverted, we have a lot of listeners that are introverted, and maybe they want to have an equally introverted presenter on the other side that they're listening to. And then an extroverted character will be the kind of person that some quiet people will be looking forward to cheering them up in the morning. So I believe it doesn't matter. What matters is how someone feels about that opportunity, how they feel about being in the limelight, and what they feel as that they want to contribute to the society. Because by the time you're thinking of the media, there has to be something that you want to bring on board. So is it that you want to be the storyteller, or do you want to be the news breaker? Do you want to be the one that gives people hope? Whatever it is that is coming from inside of you that you want to give out to the world, that is what will inspire you, and you'll see there is room for all of us.
Nice indeed. Okay, so now you've worked in Uganda, you're currently in Rwanda. So when you look at the media landscape in both countries, what would you say are the key differences?
When I came in 2018, I would say the key difference back then, probably a few things have changed today, but even not that much. But it was listener participation, participation. But it was mainly for me as a host of an English breakfast show. When I came in 2018, it was the only English breakfast show. It still remains, even after I have left that breakfast show, it still is the only English show. But at least today, we will have a few of the Kinyarwanda hosts throwing in English words here and there. So what was the key difference was listener participation. Well, I really struggled, having come from Uganda, where the listeners set the pace. They created the show. They made the show. I felt like I was struggling. I was talking to myself most of the time. You're trying to encourage people to give comments, send messages, participate. In the beginning, that was very hard. When I spent a few months and a few years, people started sending messages. They wouldn't want to be on air. They would not want to call because they don't want their voices recognized. They're not confident enough to be calling, but they would be sending messages. At least there was a difference then. The other thing that I noticed was for public figures. In most cases, especially government officials, in Uganda, if you said something on air, you'd have a government official calling and saying, can I react to that? But here it was a bit of a process. You can't just call someone and tell them, I would love to have you on air tomorrow. No, you'd have to call them. Then maybe they'll send you to a personal assistant who's got to go through their diary. Things are slightly better today because, again, I think also at that time it was very hard because they did not know me. Today they might not send me to their personal assistant, but it's also not that I will get them as soon as I want them. There'll still be a bit of, can you give me one day? Can you give me time? That is different from the other side. And then What else? I think that would be mainly it. Listener participation. But also, no, the other thing is, when you talk about introverted and extroverted, the audience in Uganda is quite extroverted. They would be there.
Yeah.
Oh man, bring up a topic. They will tear that one down for you. You ask them, you tell them, today we're talking about rent and we're talking about landlords. We're talking about neighbors. My goodness, you'll have the phone buzzing. People dying to gossip about their neighbors. Lugambo. But here you say, okay, now let's talk about rent. Nobody wants to talk about rent. No one is going to talk about their landlord. But that's not to say that they don't talk in their WhatsApp groups. They could be talking about them, the landlords and fellow tenants in the WhatsApp groups, but they'll not do that on radio.
Okay, nice. This has reminded me of something that I've always asked myself. You as a media personality working on air, is there that level of editorial censorship? Like you must only project what the editor or the news company says without you having your own personal objective towards it? Because I even heard that in Uganda, even in social media, the companies be like, you have to post this on social media. You can't post your free thought.
No.
Does that exist?
Well, maybe it exists, but it has not existed in my world. It's not existed anywhere I worked. All the places I worked at, nobody ever came to me and said, you cannot post this on social media. It was always about me. Everything I have posted, it's something that sits right with me, and I will put it in there. I will go start a conversation with people online. I'll start a conversation with people on air. I have not been stopped. No. At least I've not experienced that. And it's the same thing even in Rwanda. The radio I worked for, I will, for now, maybe the TV show, because it's a state broadcaster, there could be some limitations. There's some rules, both written and unwritten. It was the same thing even at UBC. There are written and unwritten rules. But not that somebody walks to you and says, you will not say this on air, you will not say this on social media. I think because by the time they have allowed you into the organization, they already know you, you've had a chat with them, you've gone through the interviewing process, there are certain questions you answered a certain way, and so they know who they're bringing in. When they give you time to go and host their breakfast show, they have a certain degree of faith in you. They trust that you're going to do an honest job, a good job. And then the rest of the work is on you as an individual. And now for me, as a trained journalist, I know the codes of ethics. I know what governs the media, So the rest of the censorship is my own, knowing that I am in this very public space, I am on this very public job, and whatever I say has an impact on the society. And so I regulate what I say, and I will say things in a particular way because I know they could have an impact. I'm not going to be the one to tell people pick up arms and go attack so-and-so, And yet there are people that, history has taught us. We have guys that have said such things, and you'd see how homes or countries burn down because someone did not realize how powerful they were, or the position that they hold is. And so for me, I don't sit there and wait to be guided on what to say and what not to say. I personally know what is right and what is not right. And this will be from my education background, but also from equipping myself with knowledge. I'm reading what constitutes the legal parameters when it comes to media and broadcast.
Yeah, but I think for you, since you're established right now, it could be hard because it could be harder for them to dictate, because I've had many cases where like the company says, this is our tone of approach, stick to it.
And
like ambassador.
Yeah, but also the other thing, and because I have these many years of experience, I could go in and they might trust me, but I might also go to a place where they will tell me, you won't say this or you cannot do this. And in that case, it will be up to me to either accept it or not,
Yeah.
Yeah, because if I have gone to a radio X and they're telling me this is how you will dress or this is how you will address, and then I am not comfortable with that. If I feel like you're gagging me, then it's upon me to say no. I want to speak my mind. I want to be as objective. I need you to trust me. So it depends. Sometimes you could say yes to an opportunity, even though they have told you there are these things you will not do. Then in that case, it's all on you.
Yeah. And back to Uganda, because I
Yes.
think we both follow what's happening in there.
A lot.
There's
Always a Ugandan. Yeah.
Uganda.
Yeah.
In Uganda, there's been so much loss in how do I call it, legacy media, because except a few, there's so much this thing that politics has entered the major media houses, and some journalists some are not really straightforward at hitting at the points that people really want to state. And even when you look at the recent Kawempe by-election, the beatings up and everything, like, how can journalism be politically neutral in a state or in a place that is politically charged? It seems to be hard for journalists to do.
Yeah. You know, it is hard, and it's not just a Ugandan thing, it's a global thing. It's everywhere in the world, that much as journalists are supposed to be impartial, there's still a part of the community just like everyone else. And then you find there will be one media house owned by a certain person affiliated to a certain political party. Another one affiliated. Like, we see that, we will see it in all the countries, you know. Now, in that case, I normally say the responsibility is on you, the journalist. I try my best. Let me say what I've done in my personal capacity. Even if I am affiliated to a certain party, or I have a love for a certain political figure, I look back and realize I am a media person. I am supposed to be neutral. I'm supposed to be objective. And so I try my best not to make it very obvious that I subscribe to a certain party and I am campaigning for a certain person. I still remember my profession, and I make sure that even if you interact with me, especially publicly, privately you could know, but publicly I'll make sure I don't make it obvious that this is my party, because and that is me. I am cautious. I know I don't want to be known like that. And so if I am criticizing the government, I will criticize it. If it is the opposition, I will do the same. And the reason I do it is because I know what it means to be politically aligned. And I know that at times it kills objectivity. When you go to any country that has very vibrant opposition, you will realize that journalists who have openly sold themselves to the politics of the country cannot hide how they feel about the different political figures, you know, whether they are in the opposition or they're in government. It is very obvious. You listen to American media and you can know this one is pro-Trump, this one is anti-Trump. You listen to different radios in Uganda, in Kenya, and you know this person is for NUP, this one is for FDC. Like, it becomes hard because these people have not tried in their own way to try and hide it. They have not tried to hide it at all. They're just going with the mood of the time, and sometimes maybe they forget their jobs, and it is fine. That is an individual choice. It's an individual choice, because if someone has no problem showing that this is the side they have taken, then well and good. You know, I say history will judge you. Like, history will judge you. But ultimately, it has always been there for most of the years that we have been active or followed the media. it has always been obvious that the media is divided, but now it gets more and more obvious because there are also some benefits that come with it. So you find whether it's an individual or the media house they serve, when you're aligned to a certain party, you're guaranteed of, the bag. Someone is just securing the bag.
Indeed.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but things are just getting worse. The longer we live, the worse they become.
Do you think what you said can be impacted on the journalists, like through their coaching and training, like despite everything, be neutral?
Well, I think yes, I think they can. We can talk about neutrality. We can talk about it, no doubt. But then, can we act it? Can we implement it? You could be trained by anyone. You can be trained by a senior journalist. You can be trained by a professor at the university, and the word is the same. They're all telling us, let us be neutral. But even that person that is training you, when you observe them, you don't see that neutrality in them. So in the training, it could be there. But we've seen situations where people have been trained in one thing, and when they went out there to implement, it was different. Yeah. I think for me, without trying to impose it on journalists, like it will be hard for us to tell journalists at this point, it will be hard for us to tell them, go back where it all began. Can you try to be objective? Can you try and not make it obvious that you subscribe to a certain party? I think instead of us going there, we just need to keep reminding ourselves of the responsibility that we have in the community, knowing that not everyone has the opportunity to be on radio or on TV. You who has that opportunity, and there's traditional media, then there's social media. Social media could be anyone's media. Social media has a lot of people with no training, no code of conduct. Those ones, they can do their own thing. I would focus on people who have the training like me, and I would tell them, can you just try as much as you can to remember the responsibility you hold, and just be the kind of person that wishes the public well, wishes the country well, and also just realizes the impact that your words have. For me, that would be my conversation, that in whatever you do, just remember that your words are powerful. Your tongue is powerful.
Indeed.
Yeah.
There's also this issue about that has been plaguing the media industry. My father worked in Radio Uganda in the 70s, and he said that his colleagues were total drunkards. Like those come late, and he got so frustrated he left.
Yeah.
Now, the issue affecting the workplaces in the media industry is sexual exploitation. And almost every time you go on Twitter, there's at least a month, there's always that, that complaint that comes, and underpay. Like, do you think it will ever change, or it's just getting worse and worse and worse?
It's getting worse, honestly. It's getting worse and worse. Let me tell you, when let's talk about sexual exploitation. The scenario has always been someone in power will take advantage of the person that is below them.
Yeah.
They will exploit them because this person has gone to them asking for a job, asking for a promotion, or asking for a raise. By the time someone is going to another person to ask for these things, it means that that person is superior to them. That person has some powers over them. In any workplace, that is not going to change. That is not, it's not going to change, because there will always be someone at the bottom who's looking up to someone above them, and they're going to that person above them asking for a particular thing, whether it's a promotion or a salary increment or an employment, whatever it is. Now, the person who holds that position, the person who sits in that office, how many of them will do their work diligently without even making any suggestions and provide what this person is asking for on merit? I'll give you an example. I have a friend of mine in the US called Harris, and she put out a post when guys were laid off VOA. When they were laid off VOA recently, she put out a post about a certain editor. I need to get his name. I don't know if I will find the name, but she talked about this editor and praised him. She praised him for one thing, for the fact that he never, not even once, suggested that, something else. Let me read you that post. When I was hesitant to pursue broadcast again, fearful of the nasty politics that can come with being an attractive woman in newsrooms. You see where this is heading?
Yeah.
And I'm glad you've asked that question, because it reminded me of this post. And indeed, this post speaks for a lot of cases that go unreported, unspoken of. She said, this man, he's called Jackson, actually. I had forgotten to mention the name of that guy. He was an employee of VOA, Jackson. And this lady said, this man encouraged me to step forward anyway. He saw something in me that I didn't anymore because I only wanted to be behind the scenes. Jackson gave me my first broadcast moment in front of an international audience. And she said, unlike so many men in power, in brackets, who are married, he never crossed professional boundaries. Instead, he led with integrity, mentorship, and an unwavering belief in young journalists like me. You know that question you're asking, will it ever change? It can change. But the only people that will change that are the people in the powerful positions. When Harris talks about Jackson and says, unlike so many men, he never crossed the professional line, we have a lot of men in powerful, and these days even women, in powerful positions who will use those positions to get what they want. And if sexually exploiting someone is what will take them there, they will go there without any care in the world, without thinking twice, without being concerned about their consequences, the consequences of their actions, or how it will make that other person feel. It can change, but only by the people that will hold those positions and decide for those people that want to come into the newsroom or those that want to join the media and they're younger than me. I will lead them with integrity. I will be as professional as I can be. I will never take advantage of them. That is what they need to do. And for those in the junior positions who will encounter such, I hope we will get to a point where when those lines are crossed, we report the cases, while hoping that the people we report to will not victimize it, will be victimizers, that the people we report to will actually take action, not just listen to us and brush it aside. There's so many people that have been exploited. They don't talk about it because when they tried to, somebody shushed them. Someone told them, what if you were dressed in a provocative way? So we have to get to that place. It's a responsibility of a lot of us, the people in the powerful positions, and then the young ones that will be getting into the industry, making sure that they speak out, not keeping quiet and letting that happen to them while allowing people to get away with it. Because also the problem is once you allow it to happen, when you allow that one person, then there will be a lot of other people along the way that will take advantage of you.
Wow. Then what of journalists?
Oh, can I touch on the issue of low pay?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Low pay. Oh my goodness. The industry does not pay so well, and it varies. There are countries that pay well, but even those countries that pay well don't pay well from the bottom to the top. There will be certain positions that attract a huge pay, other positions that might, you find yourselves in the newsroom, you're doing the same job, but another person is earning 3 times what you're earning. The issue of low pay, it will depend on one's employer, one's location, and one's negotiating power. My encouragement to anyone who will be joining the industry would be, first and foremost, talk to people that you trust, find out from them what the pay is, the average pay. We're not talking about the highest or the lowest. Can we find the average pay? And then go in at least knowing. A lot of us went into the industry without knowing how much people were being paid. And in the beginning, we're all looking for exposure, looking for that opportunity. So back then, the salary was not an issue. But also back then, money was more valuable. The currency was more valuable than it is today. So it's important for someone to go in and get to find out, talk to people, find out what the average pay is before they join the industry, and then go in knowing what they want to earn out of it. There are certain times when the job itself will not pay you enough or what you consider enough, but can you try and take advantage of all the other opportunities that it presents? You're on radio, you're being listened to, maybe someone is going to call you to do some emceeing work for them. Can that make up for what the job pay can't do? I hope that point is clear.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, what about bodies of journalists, Uganda Journalists Association or something like that? Can't they help?
Oh, well, with pay?
Yeah, and the issues that affect the workroom, sexual exploitation.
Oh, yes. Okay, with issues that affect, I guess they can help, and it's possible that they try, but even these associations have their own problems. The associations exist, but when you talk to certain members, they'll also tell you that they have been exploited, or there are certain cases that were not handled properly. The case of pay, maybe the association might not help 100%, but they can help to standardize, get employers to appreciate the work that their people do, and just get them to express an appreciation by paying them well. Sometimes the pay depends on the money that the media house is making. And so if you're working for a media house that probably is not earning a lot from advertisement, they might not be able to meet your expectations compared to another radio station. Can the associations help there? They can. And I want to believe that they try. I want to believe that when these cases go to them, they try to help. It would be bad if they don't respond at all to cases presented to them. But I have no doubt that the associations can. In fact, that is the reason we have associations in place, that there's a body that brings all of us together, a body that we can take our grievances to, and they can do something about it.
Okay, nice. Now it goes to the reason why we started this podcast, shaping the African narrative. Growing up, whenever you see BBC, Al Jazeera, CNN, and Africa is a top story. It's either famine, war, disease, negativity. Yeah. And it carries on that even when you leave the continent and go outside, that's the perception others have of you, of Africa and where we're from. So you who has been in the media for quite some time, how do you think that our media can help shape the African narrative?
The existing media. First, before I talk about the existing media in our small countries, let me talk about international media in those countries that we look up to. So there will be a country that has BBC. There will be another country that has VOA. There will be another country that has KBC. In our current situation as Africa, I wish there was a way we could come up with a Continental Media House. Every country has its own media house, but for us to have a channel that is powerful. There's a time I brought this up and someone mentioned SABC. Did they mention SABC or that's South Africa? And then CNBC? Yeah, I think they mentioned CNBC. So we've got both coming from South Africa. We need to get, I think, to a point where governments come together and say, let us pool resources and put up a powerful media house. And we have a media house that will pull people from different countries, broadcast probably in a few major languages of the continent, and do a very good job at telling the African story and telling it objectively.
Yes.
The longest time we have been portrayed in a negative way, and that is not to say there's no famine. We have famine, but it cannot be what dominates international media. It cannot be what dominates foreign media. But let's assume that's their editorial line. That is the policy they have chosen. That is the line they have chosen. And we are in no position to tell them how to do their work. If they want to continue looking for those negative stories, how do we make sure that we have a trustworthy media house, a media house that is well resourced, telling the other stories that are not being told by foreign media? It can be done. Maybe one country cannot put that establishment up, but when we all come together, even if it's not all the 53 of us, even if it's just 30 countries or 20 countries coming together, we just have to put up a media house that is trusted, a media house that will be the source of the news. Because where we are today, because those international foreign media have their own editorial policy, even when they employ one of us, they are going to serve them. They're going to serve their editorial policy. So we will not be satisfied because you're thinking, Alan Kasuja is at the BBC, but he's not our guy. Oh, yes, he's not serving UBC. He's not in the employment of UBC, So
Yeah.
we just need to get there. But that is for a time that has not come, because we haven't come together to build that Continental Media House. For today, let me tell you, my problem is, even when we will tell our stories and we will tell them very well. Can we make sure that the good stories take a big percentage of what we are telling the world? But here is the challenge. In most cases, we are broadcasting to our countries. We are not tailoring our broadcast to suit, let's say, the American viewer or the Chinese viewer. In our small way, when you talk about NTV or UBC, their main target is the Ugandan audience. So they're telling their story to the Ugandan audience. Their responsibility is to make sure they try to highlight the positive stories of their country. But where does the challenge come in? It depends on the political times. When NTV and UBC go out, you'll find if NTV, for example, knows that what will trend is the opposition news, they will go with that. If UBC knows what will trend will be the NRM news, they will go with that NRM. So it becomes a challenge. And that is why it's very hard to say, how best do we tell our African story when we are serving from our small media houses in our small countries. The interest to tell the African story and tell it well will be served best when we have a continental broadcaster. Today we can try, but then it becomes hard because people serve first and foremost their country, first and foremost their local audience. And when they're covering their local audience. If you're going to, let's take the story, for example, let's use Kenya as an example. You want to tell the positive stories, and then your Citizen TV. Indeed, you want to tell the positive stories. How many stories will you tell before they start telling you, you mean you didn't see the story of people dying in a road accident?
Yeah.
Story of, And this will be your own local viewers telling you, why are you telling us that the government is building roads? Didn't you see the story of another hospital that was not equipped? So you find that even when you're trying to tell the positive story of your country, there will be people telling you the reality is not like that.
Yeah.
Rugaba, that becomes a problem. It becomes a problem. But honestly, we can just try. We can try. But I believe when we talk about the African story, it will best be told by an African media house. Because the media houses in Africa today are just serving first and foremost, their local audience. No American is watching UBC to know what's going on in Uganda. You know what they will watch first? They will watch CNN. They will want, like the first place they will look will be their home TV to see what is happening in Uganda. And that's why you find most of those people, by the time they're coming here, they already have this negative perception because most of the stories that they were fed were negative. And indeed, that person is also serving their audience. They're not concerned about our positive stories. It's just that from this side of the world, we consider them reputable, and we somehow have given them that very important position in our lives that you haven't watched the news unless you have watched that international channel. And that international channel is based in America, it's based in China, it's based in the UAE. They also have their first target. Their primary target is their local citizen. We guys are secondary. So when we watch them and complain, our complaints are misplaced.
Indeed. Nice. You have given the best response to that question that I've had. Trust me.
Thank you.
It's the best
And
that I've had.
It has taken me years of thinking about it and just saying, we are complaining, but as who? You say they portray us negatively. You wanted them to portray you positively. Are you their taxpayer? Are you their employer? Are you their country? Are you their continent? No, you're not.
Wow. I appreciate you for that response. In fact, I'm going to highlight it when I'm editing the podcast.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Then among my last questions to you would be there's the rise of, I would say, independent media apart from the legacy media, like us, podcasts and others, online blogs and what. But I've seen that many of those legacy media, let's say like New Vision, tried a podcast, but it's not going on well. Others have tried to absorb, but then it has not gone well. Like, how can legacy media try to incorporate these new forms of media into their mechanism? Or it seems that for them, they have failed to adapt. And then there's also AI. Like, how will AI affect the media landscape?
There was a time when traditional media professionals were the primary source of news.
Yes, yeah.
They shaped public opinion. These people could decide what direction the story would take, what angle they would focus on. But that has changed. Now you ask, when traditional media try to do podcasts and try to incorporate AI, they could try, but it is not their place. Yes, they can just try, but it's not their place, because most of the new age media is dominated by citizen journalists. Let me put it that way. People with no journalism experience. It's just people that have access to internet, people that have access to a phone, but people that want to tell their story, people that now want to shape their own story and share their opinion. Will those people be employed by the legacy media, the traditional media? Highly unlikely. Will they be appreciated 100%? Highly unlikely. But here's the thing, nobody is going to stop them. So today, for sure, you've got your podcasts, you've got your traditional media, and podcast is the one attracting everyone who wanted to do journalism but never qualified. Everyone who wanted to be on TV, but they didn't have a face for TV. They wanted to be on radio, but were discouraged because they did not have a voice for radio. Today, they have no limitation. They can go there. They do not have to speak English. They will have a broadcast in their mother tongue and nobody will give a damn. They will go there, speak their broken English. We will not judge them because there's an audience that is exactly like them and likes what they're doing, and they will give them listenership and viewership. That is a world of its own. Whereas many years ago, nobody could employ Obama as a radio journalist or have Michelle come and host a breakfast show. Today, in her retirement, she will say, can I please convert one of our extra rooms into a studio and start a podcast? And she will be a podcaster. We will be listening to podcast host. I think that is the right term. And we will be listening to her. And these people now have room to share their opinion. The reason traditional media will fail to do both is because from the word go, they were not structured for the present times. And traditional media that knows that, or rather know that, will have a completely different department. You know, you'll go to a media house, well established. We know them as legacy media. We know them as traditional media. And they will continue running that side of things while setting up the digital new age media. And in that side, they will accommodate podcasters. They will accommodate untrained presenters. They will accommodate people just because they want to storytell, and that side will thrive on its own. Merging the two, several media houses do struggle because they were not cut out for that. But for those that will be successful, if they can separate the two and just have one side run independently, then that way they will work. Whereas, basically, let me just give an example where you say we've got our new vision, and this is the new vision that we know, which has Vision TV, it's got XFM, that side of things. And then they say, let us now have a digital side. And on the digital side, they can run Rugaba's podcast. They can have anyone, Sima can come up and do a podcast and it will be run on that platform. Anyone can be accommodated that side. So it's about separating them because times have changed and we're not going back where we came from. Traditional media used to be the go-to place, but today, nope. And we are seeing that not just with the individuals, but even corporate organizations. There was a time we'd all be looking for a job at a media house, TV station, radio station, newspaper. Today, instead of looking for that job, someone is asking, can I come and record my podcast from your studio? There's a change. There's just a switch.
Yeah. Nice. My last question to you would be, for someone who's listening and is probably having a passion for media, what would be your advice to them?
Wow. Go for it. Just go for it. I am a believer in following your passion. It could sound cliche, but just follow your passion. If the media is what you're passionate about, it comes from deep down within you. Do what it takes to get there. Unlike before, when you'd have to go study mass communication, yes, that is an added advantage. But unlike those days, the only way you could earn from journalism was if you were at traditional media, what we've just talked about, that was the only way to earn from it. Today, media is diverse. And so anyone who's listening in and they're passionate about it, let them just ask themselves, where are they comfortable? Are they comfortable in social media? Are they comfortable in traditional media? Where are they acceptable? Where have they gone and were welcomed? Which one is more comfortable to do? If you're passionate about it, identify that place where you want to go and serve. Identify the audience that you want to serve, what you want to bring, the difference you want to make, what you want to broadcast. Once those things are clear, just go for it. Let nothing stop you but yourself.
Indeed. Thank you, Madam Jackie, for sharing a lot. I've liked this conversation so much, and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure. I love to share my story. I love to share my thoughts. And so I don't take it for granted when an opportunity like this shows up. Please make sure you invite me again. I'll be waiting.
Sure.
I have enjoyed myself. Thank you. And I hope that this will entertain and inform and inspire someone out there.